Why humanity is always marching towards self-destruction. The dark warnings of philosophy. Have you ever felt it? That quiet, unsettling suspicion that no matter how advanced humanity becomes, no matter how many problems we solve, we are somehow always circling back toward destruction? It's a thought that lurks in the background of history, the rise of great empires, followed by their collapse, the invention of tools that promise liberation, only to be turned into weapons, the moments of peace that dissolve into chaos. And maybe, if you're honest, you've noticed the same pattern within yourself. The cycle of building and destroying, of creating meaning only to sabotage it again. Why does humanity, at the peak of its triumphs, seem to plant the seeds of its own downfall? Why is self-destruction not the exception, but the rule? This is the question philosophers have asked for centuries. From Plato warning about democracy collapsing into tyranny, to Nietzsche predicting the decay of values in the modern age, to Bonhoeffer's chilling theory of how stupidity, not malice, paves the way for catastrophe. And today, you and I must ask it again. Not as a distant curiosity, not as an abstract idea, but as a mirror, one that forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth. Perhaps humanity doesn't stumble into self-destruction by accident. Perhaps we are drawn to it. Every great civilization that has ever existed has fallen. Egypt, Rome, Mesopotamia, Greece, the Mayans. The list is endless. These civilizations built monuments so magnificent that even in ruins they inspire awe. They mastered architecture, art, philosophy, governance, and yet each of them collapsed. Was it external invasion? Sometimes. Was it natural disaster? Occasionally. But more often than not, the true cause was internal decay. Corruption, arrogance, division. The very structures that once made them strong became the instruments of their demise. It's like watching a man who becomes powerful, rich, respected, only to drown in his own addictions. Humanity, it seems, is that man. Plato warned us about this. In the Republic, he described how democracies, societies built on the promise of freedom, inevitably decay into tyranny. Why? Because when freedom becomes excess, when discipline erodes, people begin to crave authority again. They become tired of responsibility, tired of chaos, and they welcome the strong man, the tyrant, the one who promises order. And so the cycle repeats. Freedom to chaos, chaos to tyranny, tyranny to collapse. If this feels familiar, it's because you've seen it in headlines. You've seen it in your country. You've felt it in the tension of politics today. It's the same story, retold endlessly with new characters and new costumes. But here's the uncomfortable part. This cycle doesn't just happen on a societal level, it happens in you. Think about the times you've worked hard to achieve stability, only to sabotage it. Think about the goals you've reached, only to abandon them. Think about the relationships you've nurtured, only to poison them. You rise, you fall, you rebuild, you collapse. Civilization is not some abstract other. It is the collective mirror of the individual human heart. Nietzsche called this the eternal recurrence. Not just the recurrence of history, but the recurrence of the same mistakes, the same tragedies, the same self-inflicted wounds. Humanity, Nietzsche believed, is trapped in a loop, not because of fate, but because of its own inability to break free from its nature. And here's the paradox. We are both the builders and the destroyers. We invent medicine that saves millions, but also weapons that can wipe out millions more. We create technology to connect us, then use it to divide, distract, and control. Our brilliance and our stupidity are inseparable. So maybe the real question is not, why does humanity destroy itself? But why does humanity need to destroy itself? Look around at the present moment. We are wealthier, healthier, and more technologically advanced than ever before. And yet, mental illness, anxiety, depression, loneliness, these are at epidemic levels. Our machines get smarter, but our souls feel emptier. Our buildings get taller, but our trust in one another gets smaller. It is as if we are running faster and faster, building higher and higher, toward a cliff we refuse to acknowledge. Bonhoeffer once said that stupidity is more dangerous than malice, Because while malice can be confronted, stupidity spreads like a plague. And when enough people surrender their capacity to think, when they embrace distraction, conformity, and ignorance, then destruction becomes inevitable. Maybe you've felt this in your own circle. People avoiding difficult truths, choosing comfort over honesty, entertainment over meaning, submission over responsibility. It feels safer, doesn't it? But safety at that cost always ends in collapse. And here's the darkest truth of all. Collapse doesn't feel like collapse when you're living through it. It feels like distraction. It feels like entertainment. It feels like normal life. Until suddenly it doesn't. If self-destruction is inevitable, the question is, what drives it? One answer comes from Nietzsche. He argued that human beings cannot endure the absence of meaning. If the old gods die, if the old values collapse, we will create new idols, no matter how destructive, simply to avoid the abyss of nothingness. That is why societies invent myths, religions, ideologies, and even cults of personality around leaders. Not because the ideas are true, but because they protect us from chaos. The tragedy is that these very idols, once worshipped, often lead us straight into ruin. Look at the 20th century. Ideologies promised salvation. Fascism, communism, nationalism. Each promised a better world, but delivered mass graves. Humanity clung to these systems not because they were good, but because the alternative, freedom in the face of uncertainty, was too unbearable. Fromm called this the escape from freedom. He argued that people would rather give up their liberty and submit to authority than face the terror of true independence. And in that submission, destruction is born. But here's the twist. This isn't just about politics. This is about you. Think about the lies you tell yourself just to feel secure. The illusions you cling to so you don't have to face the uncertainty of real change. How many times have you chosen the comfort of a toxic routine over the frightening possibility of transformation? That is self-destruction, slow, subtle, dressed up as safety. We think collapse comes with fire and blood, but often it comes quietly, disguised as compromise. One decision to stay silent when you should speak. One decision to conform when you should resist. One decision to obey when you know you should question. Multiply that by millions, and history collapses under its own weight. Let's go back to Rome. The empire didn't fall overnight. It rotted from within. Its people distracted by bread and circuses, its leaders consumed by greed, its spirit hollowed out long before the barbarians arrived. The fall of Rome was not an event, it was a process. And if you look closely, you can see the same process unfolding today. We drown in endless entertainment while ignoring crises. We consume more than we create. We argue over trivialities while the foundations of our societies tremble. And like Rome, we think ourselves invincible until the walls collapse. But Rome is only one example. Consider Babylon, once a city of unimaginable grandeur, its hanging gardens a wonder of the world. Its rulers believed their walls would last forever, their power untouchable. Yet arrogance and corruption hollowed it out, and it too fell into ruin. Or think of the Weimar Republic, freedom and creativity flourishing, art and culture exploding with life. And yet beneath it, instability, bitterness, and fear. That fear paved the way for one of the darkest tyrannies in human history. Even in recent memory, we see echoes of the same cycle. The Soviet Union, born from the dream of equality, collapsed under the weight of oppression and economic failure. The nuclear age, promising unlimited energy, also threatened total annihilation. Even our environmental crises follow the same pattern. Progress that poisons its own foundation. The very success of industrialization now threatens the planet's stability. Humanity builds, and in building, sows the seeds of destruction. Machiavelli observed that people prefer stability under corrupt rulers than uncertainty under freedom. He wasn't celebrating this, he was warning us. Tyrants rise because people invite them in. Collapse happens because people stop resisting it. And here's the terrifying part. Maybe we want collapse. Maybe destruction is not just our curse, but our secret craving. Think about the stories we love. Apocalyptic films, dystopian novels, tales of ruin. Why are we drawn to them? Because deep down we sense their truth. Because destruction promises what creation cannot, an ending, a release from the unbearable weight of maintaining order. Self-destruction is tempting because it feels like relief. But here's the question that should haunt you. If humanity always cycles toward collapse, if history is destined to repeat itself, then what hope do we have? Can we break the pattern, or are we doomed to reenact it forever? Nietzsche suggested that the only way forward is to embrace the eternal recurrence, to live as if every choice will repeat for eternity, to bear the weight of existence without escape. It's not a comforting answer, but perhaps it's the only one that demands responsibility instead of surrender. And maybe that is the choice before you right now. Will you be another shadow in the cave, another voice in the crowd, another obedient servant of stupidity and distraction? Or will you take on the unbearable burden of resisting the cycle, even if only in your own life? Because here is the hidden truth. Humanity collapses not just in palaces and parliaments, but in living rooms and bedrooms. It collapses in the moments when individuals choose comfort over courage, distraction over awareness, self-deception over truth. Civilization is nothing more than the sum of these choices. And so I leave you with this question, not to answer quickly, but to let it burn inside you. Are you building or are you destroying? Because whether humanity survives its next collapse may depend, in some small but real way, on how you answer.